Before you listen to this and nod along, I want you to do something simple. Think about the last time you ate beets. Maybe you boiled them until they were soft, maybe you peeled them first, maybe you drank a big glass of beet juice and told yourself, "This is healthy, so I must be doing the right thing." But what if the problem was never the beet itself? What if the real issue was the way you were using it? Because for many adults over 60, that one detail changes everything. I've seen this happen again and again. People start eating beets because they've heard they help circulation, blood pressure, stamina, even brain function. And in theory, that sounds wonderful. But then weeks pass and they say, "I don't feel much different." Or worse, they feel bloated, tired, lightheaded, or frustrated because they expected more. And the reason is usually not that beets don't work. It's that the body after 60 does not respond the same way it did at 30. Digestion is different, absorption is different, blood sugar is different. Even the bacteria in the mouth and gut that help activate certain compounds are different. That is why today I want to walk you through the biggest mistakes older adults make with beets, and more importantly, how to fix them in a way that actually supports the body instead of confusing it. And I'll tell you right now, one of these mistakes seems so harmless that most people never even question it. But once you understand it, you'll never look at beets the same way again. Let's start with the first thing people get wrong. They strip the beet down before it ever reaches the pan. If you're peeling beets before cooking them, you may be throwing away more value than you realize. The outer layer and the area just beneath it hold a lot of those natural plant compounds that give beets their deep color and much of their protective potential. I'm not saying you should eat dirt or ignore cleaning them. I'm saying wash them well, scrub them gently, and cook them first. If you really want the skin off, remove it afterward when it slips off more easily. That small change helps preserve more of what makes beets useful in the first place. And that matters more after 60 because this is the stage of life when the body is dealing with more wear and tear in the background, more oxidative stress, more low-grade inflammation, more strain on blood vessels. So if you're going to include beets in your routine, you want to keep as much of their natural support intact as possible instead of losing it before the first bite. The next mistake is one I see all the time, especially with people who are trying hard to be healthy. They drink too much beet juice too fast. This is one of the quickest ways to turn a good idea into an uncomfortable one. A large glass of beet juice on an empty stomach may sound like a powerful morning ritual, but for many older adults it can backfire. The reason is simple. Juice moves fast. It has less fiber, it hits the system quickly, and if your body is already sensitive to sugar swings or blood pressure changes, you may feel shaky, tired, or off balance instead of energized. This is why I always say start smaller than you think you need. A modest amount gives the body a chance to respond without being overwhelmed. And instead of drinking it alone, pair it with something that slows the process down a little. A few nuts, a spoonful of yogurt, half an egg, something simple. That way the body gets support, not a rush. Older adults usually do better with steady support than dramatic highs and lows. That is true for food, for energy, and especially for circulation. Now here's where things become even more important. You can buy good beets, prepare them carefully, and still ruin the main benefit without realizing it. And that happens in the kitchen. If you cook beets too aggressively, especially in a lot of water for too long, you can reduce the very compounds many people want them for. The body uses natural nitrate from beets to help produce nitric oxide, which supports blood vessel relaxation and healthy blood flow. But that chain starts breaking down when the beet is overcooked and waterlogged. That doesn't mean you must eat them raw if raw doesn't suit you. It simply means gentler methods tend to work better. Light steaming, roasting until tender, not lifeless, cooking them enough to digest comfortably but not so much that they lose their edge. This is one of those quiet changes people underestimate, and yet it often makes the difference between "I eat beets sometimes" and "I actually notice something when I eat them." And yes, sometimes people do notice something. better warmth in the hands and feet, a bit more ease when walking, a little less heaviness during the day. Not because beets are magic, but because blood flow matters. And when the body gets the right support in the right form, even small improvements feel meaningful. Now let me tell you about a mistake almost nobody talks about. People focus on the beet but ignore timing. They eat it late at night or at random, and then expect the body to respond the same way every time. But older adults often do better when they use foods with purpose. If you want the circulation and energy support that beets may offer, taking them earlier in the day usually makes more sense than taking them late in the evening. Why? Because the body is more active, digestion is more engaged, and you're more likely to benefit from that support when you're actually moving, walking, thinking, and doing things. I've heard people say, "I had beets with dinner and didn't notice anything." That may be because they went from the table to the couch and then to bed. The body was not in a rhythm where those effects were easy to feel. But have them earlier when your system is awake and your circulation is being used, and the experience may be very different. Again, not dramatic, not theatrical, but different in the way that matters. Here's another overlooked mistake, and this one is a big one for older adults: using the root and throwing away the greens. Beet greens are often dismissed as scraps, but in many cases they're one of the most valuable parts of the plant. They bring minerals and plant compounds that complement what the root is already doing. In other words, the root may help start the process, but the greens can help support the body around that process. Muscle function, nerve signaling, vascular tone. These things matter more than people think, especially when someone complains of stiffness, fatigue, cold extremities, or that slow feeling that becomes more common with age. You don't need to make them complicated. A quick sauté with olive oil, mixed into soup, added to eggs, chopped into lentils. Start small if your digestion is sensitive, but don't assume they have no value just because they're leafy. Sometimes the parts we throw away are the parts that quietly help the most. Now I want to talk about one of the most surprising mistakes of all, and if you miss this, you can cancel out much of the benefit without touching the beet itself. It has to do with what happens in your mouth. The conversion process that helps the body use beet nitrates doesn't begin in the stomach. It begins with helpful bacteria in the mouth. That means if you eat beets or drink beet juice and then immediately use a strong antibacterial mouthwash, you may be interfering with the very process you want. Most people have no idea this even matters. They think, "I'm being hygienic, I'm doing something good." And oral care is important, of course it is, but the timing matters. If you wipe out those helpful bacteria right away, the body has less support in converting nitrate into the compounds involved in circulation. So no, I'm not telling you to stop caring for your mouth. I'm telling you not to sabotage your effort by doing it at the wrong moment. Give your body a little space. Let the process happen first. And now we come to another mistake that seems healthy on paper but often lowers the overall benefit. People combine beets with the wrong foods. They mix them into overly sweet juices, sugary smoothies, or heavy meals that bury the effect. If your beet routine includes fruit juice, syrupy blends, or a dessert-like smoothie, you may be creating more metabolic noise than support. After 60, the body often responds better to combinations that are simple and balanced. Beets work better as part of a clean, supportive pairing than as a sugary experiment. Think about how different that is. A small portion of cooked beets with olive oil and lemon, a few slices beside protein and greens, a moderate glass of beet juice with something that slows absorption. That is very different from a towering sweet smoothie that leaves you sleepy an hour later. Older bodies appreciate calm, stable blood sugar, gentle digestion, predictable energy. The more you respect that, the more likely you are to feel the difference. And finally, there is one last mistake, and in my opinion, this is the one that ties everything together. People use beets alone when they would do better using them with a natural partner. If you want more from beets, combine them with a source of natural vitamin C, a squeeze of lemon, a few slices of orange on the side, some bell pepper in the same meal. Why does this matter? Because once the body begins converting those beet compounds into something useful for circulation, that process benefits from an environment that helps protect and support it. Especially in older adults, where oxidative stress tends to be higher, giving the body that extra support can make the whole process more efficient. This is where beets stop being just another healthy food and start becoming part of a smarter routine. Not more food, not more supplements, not more pills, just a better combination. And that is what many older adults need most. Not intensity, not hype, not the latest trend, just a better way of using something simple. So if you're over 60 and you want to get more from beets, remember this. Don't strip them too early. Don't drown them in heat. Don't turn them into a sugar rush. Don't ignore the greens. Don't wipe out the mouth bacteria that help activate them. Don't eat them at random and expect consistent results. And don't forget to pair them with something that helps the body hold on to the benefit longer. Because the truth is, the body still responds at 60, at 70, even at 80. It just responds to care, rhythm, and precision more than it responds to force. That is what so many people miss. They think the answer is doing more. Usually the answer is doing it better. And if you've been eating beets for months and feeling disappointed, don't assume they failed you. It may simply be that no one ever showed you how to use them in a way your body could truly work with. Small changes, better timing, better combinations, gentler preparation. Those things may sound minor, but in a body that has been under strain for years, small changes are often the ones that finally open the door. So the next time you reach for beets, don't do it on autopilot. Use them with intention. Respect the process. Let the body meet the food halfway. That's when simple habits begin to feel powerful again. And for many older adults, that's exactly the kind of support they've been looking for all along.